You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. While you're planning beach trips, barbecues, and 3-day weekends, your wireless bill should be the last thing holding you back. That's why so many people are making the switch to Mint Mobile.
Say hasta la vista to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you.
All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts.
Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium service from Mint Mobile for $15. Amy, didn't you say that your sister is on Mint Mobile and loves it?
Yes, it was the best option for her when she finally got her own mobile wireless plan.
Honestly, I think that it might be the best option for anyone who needs their own mobile wireless plan. It sounds amazing.
This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your summer savings and shop premium wireless plans at mintmobile.com/booktalk. That's mintmobile.com/BOOKTALK.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months. 5 GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Tax and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
Ah, Smart Water. Pure, crisp taste.
That's really good water.
It's the kind of water that says, I have my life together.
I do feel more sophisticated.
Smart Water. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
Hi there, we're Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
And we embrace and respect modern fantasy, romance, romantasy books written by women. And so it is in our nature to analyze these books as we do with any other novel we might have discussed in school.
With our combined 13 years of literary academic training, we use our education to analyze and give voice to reasons you may love or hate today's popular books.
This is part 2 of this week's episode, where we're discussing chapters 1 through 4 of Sarah J. Maas's second Throne of Glass novel, Crown of Midnight.
Before we dive in, don't forget SPILT. Spoilers, perspective and interpretation, language, and themes.
If you would like more information, please go back and listen to the start of part 1 of this week's episode.
We are now in chapter 3, and Celaena is dreaming that Cain and the Ridderak are chasing her. While she is sprinting as fast as she can, Cain has a, quote, stalking gait that makes it very easy for him to stay close behind her, and the Ridderak lumbers. Unlike Celaena, these words of stalking gait and lumbering that are associated with Cain and the Ridderak's movements seem unhurried and clumsy. And to me, that makes them even more terrifying because she's running as fast as she can. So I just thought it was a nice little nightmare sequence.
Yeah.
On SJM's part.
I like this nightmare sequence because Cain, quote, whispered her name, her true name, and she screamed. And remember, Cain was essentially the king's champion. The king thought Cain did everything he can to make Cain be the champion. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of put together that if Cain equals king, then it's Celaena running away with her true identity from the king.
That's a great point.
After Celaena wakes up, she holds Fleetfoot and thinks, quote, it's over. And she says it 2 times, like in this sequence, right? She says it's over twice. But it feels like the second, for me personally, it's over, has more to do with her identity. Like she's almost saying, nope, like I am not Aelin. It's over. This is not, there's no world I can go back into that identity. It's over.
I think that's a great point. I didn't think about it, but I can see that.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm looking for any little Aelin hint here.
Yeah.
Now, in book 1, speaking of my Aelin hints, in book 1, we talk about Fleetfoot being a representation of Celaena sometimes, and I feel like we're seeing this again. Quote, even though she wasn't yet fully grown, the dog was already abnormally large. Dorian had never said what breed exactly he suspected her mother had mated with. Given Fleetfoot's size, it could have been a wolfhound or an actual wolf. I feel like that's a great way of saying we don't know how much power that she's going to have later on. We know that her grandmother was Fae, but there's still a lot of question into her own lineage and what's capable, and that she could be full wolf. You know what I mean? So there's just as much question to Fleetfoot right now as there is to Celaena's identity and heritage.
It's a great point. We then see Celaena and Nehemia together for the first time in this novel. And I wrote in my notes a question, which was, is there symbolic significance to the fact that they only see each other at dawn? Because I feel like Estrium always uses dawn, sunset, these things very symbolically. So knowing that Nehemia sees the rebels at night, which is something we're going to learn later, it's under the cover of darkness, it's, in disguise. I think there is significance in the fact that Celaena only sees Nehemia at the light of dawn, representing that Nehemia has two sides of her. She has the dawn side and the dark side, and Celaena is only acquainted with one of those.
Absolutely. I think Nehemia is also almost trying to get Celaena to see the light, the new light, like getting Celaena to be like, hey, let's start the day fresh with maybe wanting to save some rebels. Just a little positive morning affirmations. And Celaena isn't doing what Nehemia wants her to do, right? Like she's literally not getting what she's trying to do. And I feel like when it comes to light with Chaol, like represents a lot of truth with light, I don't feel like that's going to be the case with Nehemia. Like you said, Nehemia's truth happens in the dark. Nehemia's truth happens at night when she's working with the rebels. Nehemia's truth happens at night when she's working with Elaine. Yeah, not Elaine. Elena. Yeah. Elena. Nehemia's truth happens away from light. And I feel like that's her kind of like not a double standard, but I think she's trying to maybe metaphorically manipulate Celaena. This is all metaphors and interpretation, guys.
All metaphors. We could also say, we'll talk about later in the book, how Nehemia's choice, knowingly going to the king, and ultimately that's when she is killed. Nehemia is sunsetting. Her journey is sunsetting while Celaena's journey, or Aelin's journey, is rising with the dawn. And this is the only moment where they converge.
Yes.
I just gave myself goosebumps.
Oh, good job.
Celaena wonders to herself during their conversation, quote, did the king know that the princess was one of the spies he'd mentioned? He couldn't, or else he'd never trust Celaena to be his champion, not when their friendship was widely known. Another instance of just a bad assumption on Celaena's part. She's a little bit naive, and I think we're a little bit gullible too.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't help that there's two conversations essentially going on. It's the conversation that Nehemia is having, and there's the conversation that Celaena is having. Because Nehemia asks Celaena about the assassinations that the king has just assigned her with to go kill off the rebels. And Nehemia says, quote, and you're to kill them all? Nehemia's creamy brown face paled slightly. She's worried about her own plans. She's worried about everything that she's put together falling apart. And maybe part of it is feeling guilty about Celaena having to kill, but her concern doesn't really read, at least when you know the truth, as you're going to kill these innocent people. It comes off as, oh fuck, my plans are going to get messed up.
Right. Or the people I'm associated with are going to get caught in the crosshairs.
Yeah.
It definitely is more a self-interested concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, talking about the king's plans, Celaena isn't very interested in learning what those plans are of the king's. Quote, she wasn't even sure if she really wanted to know what the king was up to, let alone share that information with anyone else. It was selfish and stupid, perhaps, but she couldn't forget the warning the king had given the day he crowned her champion. If she stepped out of line, if she betrayed him, he would kill Chaol. and then Nehemia, and then the princess's family. Celaena knows the risks associated with what she's doing. That is why she's keeping the secret. She's keeping it from Chaol and from Nehemia to keep them safe, to keep herself safe. So, knowing that, is this not the same as when later Chaol is not going to tell Celaena about the threat to Nehemia because he wants to keep them safe? Is there a double standard at play here?
Yes. The answer is yes. It literally was what I said in my notes, where I was just like, these double fucking standards. Celaena even says to herself, quote, all of this, every death she faked, every lie she told, put them at risk. She continues to put them at risk over and over again with her actions in order to keep her safe, in order to keep everyone else safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chaol doesn't tell Celaena about Nehemia, mainly because he doesn't know if it's true or not, right? Like, he's actually not entirely sure what degree it is because he's never heard of these threats before.
Right. He almost thinks the king is lying.
Yeah,
kind of.
Because he kind of knows that the king is being a little shit right now and hasn't been completely honest with him. So Celaena having this knowledge and her actions are putting them at danger versus Chaol's inactions, you could argue, put them at danger.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like what Chaol did was withhold information he hadn't verified. What Celaena is actively doing is putting them in danger over and over and over again.
And knowingly so.
And not telling them.
Yeah. Not letting them choose if they want to be associated with that.
They deserve to know what she's doing.
And this is a trope I think we see in a lot of stories. We see it over and over again with Aelin. Right now, it's novel in the sense that this is the first time we're really seeing it with Celaena. We have to pose the question, if we continue the series, do we get tired of it?
Yes.
Do we get tired of it across the entire, catalog of literature?
Can I have one more complaint before you start?
Yeah.
Sorry. One more complaint. She doesn't even need to tell them that she is not killing everyone. All she needs to tell them is the king threatened your life.
Mm-hmm.
If I mess up.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally, I just want to pull back the curtains a little bit more and just say, hey, she doesn't even need to tell them that she's saving these lives. They just need to know that their life's at risk because the king threatened them, which is I feel like a very easy thing to tell someone.
Right. Right. And in that way, her not telling them, hey, the king has threatened your life if I don't do this right, to me is equivalent of Chaol withholding, hey, there's an unknown threat against Nehemia. Nehemia, I don't know if it's real.
Yeah. The difference is we know the king is a real threat.
Right. It's like more people should be more mad at Celaena.
I agree. Sorry, go ahead, read your note. I'm so sorry. I had to.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Let me read this quote because I think it encapsulates everything for us. Quote, whenever the princess or Chaol or even Dorian looked at her like that in a judgy way, it was almost too much to bear. But they had to believe the lies too, for their own safety. She's convincing herself that what she is doing is right. And it reminds us of Celaena's selfishness, and it is setting her up for the rest of her journey in this novel and in this series. From wanting to do nothing with rebels to wanting to destroy the king, but always, always, always withholding information.
Yeah. And also keep in mind, initially, from what we've heard, this book series was not supposed to be the whole epic 7-book series. And she being Celaena, was supposed to end with Chaol. That was originally with Dorian, then it was with Chaol. But I feel like we're getting evidence here of Chaol was always meant to be forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
Because if SJM had decided, and Rowan was still in the picture when she outlined these, but Rowan was meant to be just purely a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And if she were to have gotten back together with Chaol, there is a lot of room for forgiveness here.
Yeah, there is. And I feel like that room remains even after Nehemia dies.
She even forgives him. She even understands at one point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was a lot going on to make sure we didn't hate Chaol.
Yes.
It's interesting how people continue to hate Chaol.
I am literally waiting for the moment that he does something because even sending her away makes sense. I don't get it. He's actually helping her. But okay. One of my notes, I don't know why I have it here, but I just said that more friends should be more supportive of their friends being an assassin, and that if you ever decided to become an assassin, you don't even have to lie to me. I would have your back so hard.
I know that you would help me live that double life. You would be crucial to my success.
Thank you. Some would say assist, you know? Like, as we were saying earlier, there's two different conversations that are happening. But even with Nehemia, I feel like she's having two different conversations within Celaena. So really, there's three conversations happening. Nehemia wants to save her people. That is a must. She also wants Celaena to want to not to kill people and to want to save her rebels, to save her people. And that's going to be one of their biggest arguments before Nehemia dies, is going to be like, why are you not taking any action? And at this point, Nehemia tells her, quote, apparently he, the king, is too busy finding people for you to kill. Celaena blushed at the harshness in Nehemia's tone. That's not how you do it. Like, that's not how you guide your friend to a truth. And it's very frustrating. I have a lot of issues with Nehemia in this book and her as a character, which then makes me have issues with SJM, because why are you making the one person of color in this entire book series so far be the one to kill themselves and to kind of suck while doing it? So I want to emphasize that I recognize that that is a huge aspect, and it is extremely fucked up of SJM to have done that. I also, every time I'm mad at Nehemia, know that it's SJM's fault. But I think Nehemia really sucks here. Like, I don't like her actions at all. And I have yet to believe her to be a good friend to Celaena.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that I think a lot of our listeners struggle with, is the relationship between Celaena and Nehemia. We saw that a lot in our listener thoughts episode.
Yeah.
That people don't believe Celaena's reaction to Nehemia's death and how much she cares about Nehemia. I can't really explain it, except for the fact that I'm assuming Nehemia is also 18. Like, when you're in a situation, there's only one other 18-year-old female around you, she's probably going to be your only friend. And not because you like her, but because the situation puts you two together. And I feel like, again, to your point, you know, Nehemia, this is not how we convince someone to the side of good.
Mm-hmm.
She's also 18. Like, how is she supposed to achieve that? That's a lot of responsibility for one person.
Celaena admires Nehemia because she's everything that she wants to be. Here's my question. If Celaena was not Aelin, if Celaena was truly just an assassin, would Nehemia waste any of this time? And I think that's kind of what my frustration comes into, where Nehemia has a motive in her befriending of Celaena.
Mm-hmm.
It is not without her saying, I need Celaena to step up and become Aelin and to become queen and to lead the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
It has never not included that. So yeah, I think that it's really hard, because on Celaena's side, you have Nehemia, who she truly admires, right? Like, that's the princess that Celaena, I'm sure, wished that she could be. And on Nehemia's side, there's a lot of, I'm being your friend because I need you to do something. There's a lot going on in Nehemia's inner working from things that we discover in this book, next book, and later books, right? And it just shows how much Nehemia never came to Celaena with an open heart of pure, just friendship.
Yeah, I think it's a great point.
Yeah, thank you.
I have to end the chapter with a question, and that question is Celaena a coward? Quote, when Celaena said nothing, when she promised nothing, just as she always did when Nehemia spoke about these things, aka rebelling and helping oppressed people, the princess dropped the stick on the ground and quietly walked back to the castle.
It's hard, but I'm going to say what's in my head before I read my note. It's hard because Celaena is busy trying to keep them alive everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
She is just trying to make sure her actions don't kill these two people in her life. There is not enough room in her mental capacity to save all the rebels. Now, morally, do we all have an obligation to assist those that are in need, to have time and consideration? Yeah, I mean, this comes from a place that, you know, you and I live in America. We live extremely privileged lives, and we get to conveniently turn off the news when we hear about other places around the world who are absolutely being destroyed and need help. And we get to turn that part of our head off because we're busy with everything else. And sometimes it is a lot to take on. There is a social obligation, and there is a certain amount of social morality that we should try to do something. As someone who understands that sometimes, like, it's so hard to be completely consumed, and knowing that, like, you know, throwing yourself completely in that could just take an extreme intense mental toll. It's hard for me to judge Celaena personally when it comes to that.
I completely agree. In this instance, Celaena's problems are big, right? She's doing things that could get her and her friends killed. I don't have that experience, but I do have the experience, like you're saying, Jac, of I have hard things I'm dealing with in my life. I'm privileged to deal with those things.
Yes.
And I am privileged that I can focus on them and not focus on, you know, war happening around me, or, you know, people dying, people starving, etc.
And I think that just comes more from a point of, if anyone is judging Celaena, like you know, we're not even trying to save each other's lives, right? Like, we're just trying to get by and live our life and just trying to let our own mental health survive. And that comes from a place of being, of privilege, of being like, well, if that's like my biggest concern, then damn. And Celaena has an even bigger, real concern, you know, like she's trying to make sure her friends don't die. So I think that comes from more of a place of, if anyone was judging Celaena, of thinking, wow, she should be really doing more. Absolutely, she should be doing more. But so should I. And so should you. And so should everyone else. You being not you, but I was looking at the list.
But also me.
Also me. Like we all have that obligation to do more. It's easy to say it. It's harder to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that Nehemia being the one to let go of the stick for Fleetfoot, again, Fleetfoot represents Celaena. So it's Nehemia kind of giving up on Celaena also, of just being like, I can't even entertain this conversation with you anymore, or entertain this plain fetch. I'm walking away. Yep. We're now in chapter 4. And I don't know.
You don't sound very happy about it.
I'm just flustered. It's just hard where I'm like, let's talk about war. And now I'm like, sweaty man. It's such a weird, it's a weird transition for me. Let's take a sip. Let's cleanse ourselves. Yeah, there we go. We start chapter 4 and we're in Chaol's point of view, and Chaol and Celaena are off to a nice morning run. Quote, the chill morning air was like shards of glass in his lungs. His breath clouded in front of him. They bundled up as best as they could without weighing themselves down, mostly just layers of shirts and gloves. But even with sweat running down his body, Chaol was freezing. I love it because of the contradiction that we get between the way that he's cold versus the way Celaena's cold. So the way that he's cold is, you know, it's nice in his lungs, it's sweating, it's freezing. Oorah, right? And then Celaena, we have, quote, Celaena was freezing too. Her nose was tipped with pink, color stood high on her cheeks, and her ears shone bright and red. Like, it's kind of cute. It's almost like she's blushing. So, and this is all from Chaol's point of view. So he was like, there are knives in my lungs and I am brutally freezing out here. And he's like, but she's kind of cute. And I think that there's something about it where there's a girlishness to it. Again, she's blushing. It's sweet.
Again, because this is from Chaol's point of view, he's also observing how Celaena's running. And this is a breadcrumb, but also a marker for us to remember how hard that first run with Chaol was for Celaena in Throne of Glass. Quote, she kept up with him easily now, noble as a stag bounding through the wood. Sometimes he found it immensely hard not to watch her, to watch the way she moved. Now we know the stag reference indicates her true heritage. Stag reference, true heritage. We also are being reminded of how far Celaena has come. She is now graceful. She is, I was going to say like a gazelle, but no, she's like a stag. And also, by the way, if you weren't clear on this, Chaol's into her.
I also think it's important to note that the first comparison of Celaena to her home, to her identity, is actually from Chaol, who's going to be the first person and only person in this book that she actually tells her true identity to. So, and the fact that there's like the start of the book versus the end of the book is a very good mirroring kind of bookends to each other.
Good job.
Thank you.
Now, Chaol tries to ask Celaena a question, and in the process of asking, Celaena assumes Chaol is judging her because, like we saw from her perspective in chapter 2, she's feeling vulnerable and projecting that everyone doesn't like her, is like damning her for her choices. I actually liked what I wrote better. She's feeling vulnerable because of her secrets that make her seem morally reprehensible. Wow, Amy, good job. Quote, she whipped her gaze to him, then slowed. He didn't feel like stopping and might have kept running, but she grabbed his elbow and forced him to pause. Her lips formed a thin line. If you think passing judgment on me before I've had breakfast is in any way a good idea, Jac has a thought.
Yes. So he kind of shuts her down and is just like, hey, that's not that is not what I'm talking about. And we're going to get more into that. But I think it's really good to show that Celaena is ready for people to be judging her, because that's what we've known up until this point, is her thinking everyone is judging her. And we can see in this moment that it has literally nothing to do about her and what she's done. He is in his own head and he's trying to process it. And there's a certain amount of accuracy of Dorian's judgment, but at least with Chaol, there's nothing really going on with him.
You know what that means? Celaena's an unreliable narrator.
I know. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk?
So Celaena realizes Chaol's actually talking about how he feels because he killed Cain. Chaol observes that when she makes this realization, quote, the ice in her eyes melted completely. He hated the sympathy in her face, the understanding. Now, on one hand, I think that Chaol is projecting his own self-hatred for feeling or coming across weak. He doesn't want to be that vulnerable, even though he's willing to admit he just doesn't want the pity that comes with being viewed as weak. But I want specifically to focus on the fact that he views Celaena's gaze as ice or icy and not like stone. Maybe because I was bullied in middle school. Because I was called an ice queen for so long.
Aw, it's not your fault. You have a glorious resting bitch face.
I do have a glorious
It's what makes you so photogenic.
Unfortunately, women are often associated with being an ice queen when they do not come across the way men want them to come across, and they are not feminine enough, they're not accommodating enough. It's something often associated with despised women or women who do not fall in line, and it is a judgment of attitude. And so for Chaol to think Celaena is icy, to me, has an underlying connotation of judgment on his part. And I feel that's different because if he had said a wall, she built he could see the wall being built up, right? Or her face turned stony. Those things imply to me an obstacle to overcome.
Yeah.
Something that you can climb over. Ice, yeah, you can melt it, but it doesn't have the gendered connotation. Stones don't have the gendered connotation of ice to me.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say. I can hear an eye roll from a listener somewhere, but I think it's fair because you have the terms ice queen. You don't have ice king, right?
Right.
And then you can, a lot of times, even in books, you'll see men being like they had a stony gaze. So I think it is fair to say there is a certain amount of genderization in this.
It's only because media and literature has done it, right?
Yeah.
Our storytelling over the years is what has created this connotation. The only other note I had is, by the way, they're talking about death. So, of course, Celaena looks at the, quote, skeletal trees.
Going back to your, the male-female of it all, right? The genderization of ice versus stone. I think it's extra fair to say that because you can tell that Chaol's own masculinity is being challenged by this. Quote, he'd already seen and done enough in the name of the king. He fought men, hurt them, so he shouldn't even be having these feelings. And especially telling her, I feel like you can tell that there's a threat to his masculinity, that he is questioning himself as a man, as a leader. And the only person who can understand him is a woman. Not just the only person, because I'm sure there's other men in his guard who might have killed someone. The only one that he feels comfortable enough going to is a woman. I actually applaud Chaol for not flat out being like, it's a woman, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could have been a lot more toxic with this, and he is willing to go to her and he is willing to talk about his feelings in chapter 4. So, good on him. But there are hints of that, just like there are hints of icy and stony.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And again, this all comes down to what society tells us.
Women can kill too. Statistically less likely, though.
Also, men should not feel threats to their masculinity by being vulnerable.
Not at all.
Or having feelings.
Extra not at all.
At one point, breadcrumb, Chaol thinks, quote, if it ever came down to having to choose between his king and Celaena, he prayed to the word that he'd never be faced with that decision. We're in chapter 4.
Famous last words.
This is the second foreshadowing
Yeah.
of what is to come, which, by the way, I forgot was barely halfway through the book.
Yeah,
it is. It was towards the end.
It is funny where it's like, wow, I sure hope that there's no slithering monster in the library. Like, just like the most like things that are definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Celaena, though, even Chaol's not sure which side he would choose if he had to choose between the king and Celaena. And while it does foreshadow the fact that he makes the quote-unquote wrong choice by withholding information, it also is foreshadowing he will go on a journey where this all changes inherently and permanently for him.
I really can't wait for it. I can't wait for that point. I also dread it because I know I'll be sad again when it happens. Because Chaol also thinks, quote, there was a line between them. The king might not think twice about their friendship, but crossing that line could be deadly for the both of them. It could make the king question his loyalty, his position, everything. This is the exact same mentality Celaena has. She thinks even earlier with her friendship with Nehemia. Does the king think that it's like he might tolerate this, but what happens if it becomes too much? Chaol is trying to protect Celaena as much as she's trying to protect him. There is a role that they both need to play in one another's safety that they feel like they're imposing, like saying like, I must be the one to save them. But it really is fascinating how much Nehemia's death cuts out Celena's lack of empathy or even being willing to see herself in Chaol.
I want to stress the point that quote says. It could make the king question his loyalty, his position, everything. Chaol gave up his heritage, his inheritance, his lordship. Like, he's given up everything to be where he is right now. Those are high stakes for him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the king's an asshole, but Chaol has literally nothing else.
No, this is his life.
And, you know, it's important to remember it because of the impact Celaena's will has on him later in the book. But it's also important to understand his motivations when he's like, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. If I think the king is lying to me about threats, which the king probably is.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to cause alarm where maybe he's being sensitive.
Or he also doesn't want to have a simple thing get back to the king that he did tell Celaena. Because doesn't the king tell him, don't tell anyone?
Yeah.
You know, so it is one of those like, hey, I heard a rumor that Taylor Swift is going to be coming to this restaurant. That's silly. I haven't heard of any. Speaking of Taylor, tonight's the AMAs.
I know. I was just thinking that.
I'm like, where's my phone? I haven't checked anything. But it is very much I don't know, the double standards. They are reflected in one another. So much so.
Do you want to check your phone while I take a
for
sip?
Taylor? Yeah, I do.
Great, because I can take another bite.
She's not at the AMAs.
There's a moment of great irony where Chaol thinks that he wouldn't betray Dorian by crossing a line with Celaena because Dorian still looked at her like he was in love with her. Were you not paying attention in Throne of Glass, sir? Because that is exactly what Dorian did to you.
Yeah.
He did not respect any boundaries because of what you wanted.
He never respected a damn thing. And now it's like, oh, my best friend who was turned down 3 months ago.
And again,
better friend,
more honorable. Like, at his core, Chaol is honorable.
Yes, absolutely. When Chaol and Celaena get back to the castle, Celaena gets jealous because there are a number of women who line the path and they like watching because he takes off his shirt. I mean, he still has a shirt on underneath.
But he's sweaty and he's clingy.
Right? And she notices, quote, they appeared along the path wearing even nicer dresses. And I think there's the double jealousy. One, jealous because these bitches be looking at Cole, right? Or Cole at Chaol. I don't know who Cole is. But I also think there's a jealousy that they get to wear dresses and they get to openly try to flirt with him. They get to express their interests. Celaena doesn't get to express her interests. She doesn't get to wear her dresses. She doesn't really get to flirt with him. And, you know, that's more of her identity that's been stripped away.
Yeah. Great point.
Thank you.
Plot twist. It's an ad break, but we promise it is still canon.
A fun fact about me is that Spanish was my first language, but I actually lost almost all of it growing up and into adulthood. And it has been my goal the last year to learn Spanish again. My tutor said, hey, you need to do some learning on your off time because you're not going to suddenly learn Spanish once a week with me. And I've been using Babbel in between my tutoring lessons. And I have to say, Maria Jose is very impressed.
That's because with Babbel, you can start speaking a new language or a forgotten language with confidence thanks to its conversation-based techniques that quickly teaches you useful words and phrases.
There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so that you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I love Babbel because it's been handcrafted by over 200 language experts. Babbel's languages are voiced by real native speakers and built with science-backed cognitive tools like spaced repetition and interactive features to fit any learning style. I cannot emphasize how important it is to actually hear a real person speak the language you're trying to learn.
Staying motivated to learn a new language has never been easier thanks to real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations in only 10 to 15 minutes a day on Babbel's mobile app or website.
With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. So get talking with Babbel.
We want you to learn another language, so we're teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/booktalk.
Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/booktalk, spelled BABBEL.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK.
Babbel.com/booktalk.
Rules and restrictions may apply. Amy, I have a confession.
Oh no.
I used ZocDoc again.
Really?
How do you think I went to the doctor so quickly last week?
Oh, I guess that's true.
Once again, ZocDoc actually got me to go to the doctors.
Twice in like less than a month is crazy for you. And it's all because ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high quality in-network doctors and click instantly to book an appointment because Jack needs instant gratification.
If I can't get the appointment the next day, I won't go because I get too scared in my mind. But I don't have to worry about doctors being in network or anything because they have more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty from mental health to dental health, primary care, urgent care, and you can filter to see which doctors take your insurance.
The filters also let you look at who's nearby, who's a good fit for the medical needs you have, and if they're highly rated by verified patients.
Once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings and choose a time slot that works for you, like 9 a.m. the next day. And appointments are made through ZocDoc, so it happens so fast, usually just 24 hours to 72 hours of booking.
You can even score same-day appointments, which I know sometimes there's a need.
So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/booktalk to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
That's ZocDoc.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK. ZocDoc.com/booktalk.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros. Word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Celaena meets Roland then, and instantly she gets bad vibes from him. Quote, Roland smiled again. He smiled too much and too smoothly. There's different masks that people are wearing here, right? So you have Roland who's like, I'm so charming. And then later on, we're going to get Asher and how he presents himself to Celaena and how Celaena presents herself to Asher, and how we're getting Roland who's like, I think there's even a line of like, he greets her and she goes, the way that he said those words told Celaena how he treated women. I'm like, damn girl. Okay. She's really quick to judge him and to dismiss him. You might think she has good instinct. However, she doesn't have good instinct. We know that about Asher. We know that about a lot of things. Like, she sometimes has good instinct. Sometimes she doesn't. I think that she immediately dislikes Roland because she sees that Chaol dislikes Roland.
Great point.
And her loyalty is with him.
Yeah, there's a point where she thinks, I just need a shovel. Like, she wants to bury him. She implies burying him alive. And I was just like, is he really that smarmy? He doesn't come across as oily to me. Is he full of himself because he's related to royalty? Yeah, okay, but
like, so is Dorian. You know,
right.
To me, it shows the subtlety of her loyalty to
Chaol. I think that's a great point.
Thanks.
The presence of Roland reminds us of Dorian's complacency because he wonders whether Roland has anything to do with his father that is bad, but all he ends up thinking in the end is he just doesn't want to know. Roland is harmless. Let him stay that way. I don't want to question it. Now, he's being willfully ignorant. He's also being gullible, I guess, just like Celaena has been, making assumptions or assuming the wrong things or not wanting to pursue information. But I have to keep reminding myself they're 18, 19, and 22. For this novel to work, they have to be that young.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the secrets that could have been picked up, a lot of the information that should be pursued but isn't, is because they're young and they are selfish. And that's okay because they're young.
I also this thought hit me. Dorian's the only one who's not being threatened by the king. Celaena has been threatened by the king. Nehemia has been threatened by the king. Chaol has not been directly threatened by the king, but his position is always threatened by the king. Dorian's the only one that the king hasn't been up to him and be like, I'm going to fucking kill her. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to shut my mouth. Also, and the reason why I do point that out is because there are moments for him to explore when things are gross. And I think that this is a moment where Roland is gross, and I think Dorian could have done more to potentially explore that. And because Roland asks, quote, is she for your father's personal use, or do other councilmen also employ her? I know that we're talking about her assassin skills. It felt sexually dominating to me. And absolutely. I know I'm here to read for the feminist lens, and that kind of is all within it. But is she for your father's personal use? That is not how you say, does your father only get to use her as an assassin? Like, that's not like, it's gross. And while Dorian does shut it down, but he shuts it down with a joke. Like, he tells him, why, do you have someone else you plan to kill? It's not the way that someone who is curious to explore shittiness of other people is willing to shut them down. You know what I mean? There's more he could have done.
Right. I agree. We then see Celaena, who has been out and about town spending all of her assassin salary. She re-enters her room carrying a bunch of things, including, quote, lugging hat boxes, colorful bags full of perfume and sweets. These things are all excess. They are not things that are necessary to survive. And I bring that up because we see Celaena embracing the lavishness that the money can afford, of the privilege of living in the palace and having access to these things. And in its own way, even though this is who Celaena is, this is who she was when she was an assassin before Endovier, it's also a version of complacency and selfishness. In this moment, in my mind, she is no different than Dorian, who doesn't want to pursue information, who doesn't want to put his cousin down in a more obvious way.
Yep. Celaena also buys quote, shoes, hats, tunics, dresses, jewelries, weapons, baubles for her hair, and books. Books and books and books. Now, I think there's a reason why Celaena leans in more to the books than anything else right now. And I think it's because she doesn't really have the opportunity to wear the dresses, the hats, the baubles. She can't do any of that, right? So she's embracing what she can do without judgment or danger. So I think that because there's going to be a lot of conversation about books and how much she reads and everything. And I think that there's more purpose in her reading here than just like, I love books, you know? Even when Celaena goes shopping, like we finally see her in a dress. It's because, quote, dressing nicely guaranteed her the best service in whatever store she visited. There's not a moment where she gets to be like, I get to look nice today. And that's what I want.
Right.
And we saw that in book 1, right? We saw her be like, I am going to wear a pretty dress and everyone can suck it. And that's not what we're getting here. It's like, I finally get to wear a pretty dress and there is going to be reason, meaning, and motive behind it. Dorian comes to pay Celaena a visit in her room, and he hasn't been there since they essentially broke up. And I think it's important that the first time her and Dorian talk is when she's back in a dress, because again, Dorian was the one who pointed out that she never wears dresses anymore. She's always in that unforgiving black. And well, I could say that it's something like it shows that she's back in her identity. She feels more like herself, you know, that like maybe he sees the true her. It really feels like he gets to make the move when he is not threatened by her.
Right. And when she looks like an assassin, he's threatened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Celaena does deal with some jealousy when it comes to Dorian. You know, he even talks about how, you know, like is flirting with other women. And she says that she hates the idea of it, but she knows it's unfair. And she even remembers, quote, she crossed her arms, remembering how he smelled, how his lips had tasted. And it's awkward. It is awkward when you're with, like, when you're hanging out with an ex or something, and you're just like, yeah, we've seen each other naked. Like, it is the weirdest thing. Like, anytime I've hung out with any ex, it's just like, ooh, you were there, you know, like,
yeah.
What was it? Like you and I hung out years after with the guy that I was first intimate with. And it is funny where it's like, we all know here that I had sex for the first time with this guy. Like, this is a secret we all know. And we're just chilling, having dinner. It's a very surreal thing. And Celaena's never had to do that with anyone. Like, cause Sam is dead.
Right.
It is the weirdest thing to be with someone and knowing that you've shared intimacy with them. Promises were said, you know, oaths were taken, whatever you want to say. And like, you know, they're like, you were inside, you know, like a lot of weird things. And then just to see them normal. So I really feel like this is a very normal thing to do when you're just trying to figure it out and be like, I don't know how to deal with you. And it doesn't mean that she likes him. Again, you know, reflecting on those things does not mean she has feelings.
Right. But despite that, she does think, you know, she misses him. She misses talking to him. She misses these things, but it's obviously more platonic than it is romantic.
Absolutely. Still though, Celaena kicks him out and she can't deal with her own complicated feelings towards him, who is the son of the man who killed her family, her entire kingdom. And it wrecks her. Quote, alone in the foyer, Celaena clenched and unclenched her fists, suddenly disgusted with all the pretty packages on the table. She feels so disgusted with the purchases, which is money from his dad, and also represents her own desires. And she feels disgusted with wanting the things that she wants. And even if she desires a friendship with him, how can she be friends with Dorian when his dad is who he is?
Yep. I just want to read a couple of notes to add to what you're saying, Jac.
Okay.
Celaena thinks at one point, quote, being friends with Dorian wasn't something she was certain she could actually do. Not when he would always have that gleam in his sapphire eyes, not when he was the son of the man who gripped her fate in his hands. But in the 2 months since she'd ended whatever had been between them, she'd often found herself missing him. Not the kissing and flirting, but just him. I think that this is really important and speaks back to our theme because, like Chaol drawing an imaginary line between him and Celaena is drawing an imaginary line between her and Dorian. She wants that friendship, just, you know, Chaol wants intimacy with Celaena. but they feel like to cross that line would be a bad thing. And I think that explains why Celaena all of a sudden is like, leave, I don't want you here.
Yeah.
Because it feels a little out of character given that she was just like remembering how much she likes him. And so when she's like clenching her fists and disgusted with the pretty packages, to me, it is a projection of her own feelings that she's disgusted with herself.
Yeah.
Because she did lie to Dorian. She, to tell him to leave, it's not because she doesn't want to be friends with him. It's because
she feels like she can't.
She feels like she can't. And on some level, it's not like Dorian's coming across as genuinely wanting to be friends. Like, he does come across as still wanting more.
Yep. Yeah. He's got those longing puppy eyes.
Yeah, he does. I'm taking a sip. We now move into chapter 5. And if you didn't catch on, there's a theme of power in this novel that is misinformation, which is Celaena's specialty. We see it plainly in how Celaena handles tracking Archer Finn. She fakes being a messenger and goes to several houses claiming to have a delivery, only to find that that's not the house she intended to go to. And then she, quote, feigned embarrassment of getting the wrong house, asked whose house it was, chatted up the servant a bit, and then went on her way. Celaena is in her element. The pretending, the lies, that it all comes easily to her. That is why lying and keeping secrets is her default solution to problems. We see it with her aiding the rebels. We're going to see it again throughout the series. This is the only thing she knows because she has been keeping a secret about her identity since she was 8 years old. It's worked, for 10 years. Why not keep going? I feel like we're also reminded why lying and keeping secrets is important. Celaena keeps being reminded that she lost Sam. And had she not been honest with Sam, if she had kept him at a hand's length away or arm's length away, maybe he wouldn't be dead. That's my interpretation of this.
Yeah.
Therefore, getting back into her assassin element is a double-edged sword. It's also a strong reminder of all that she's lost, even though she's very good at being an assassin. Quote, it felt like she'd never left Rifthold, as if she might look over her shoulder and find Sam Cortland crouching behind her. But Sam is dead, and try as she might, Celaena Sardothien will be dead soon too, if not dead already. Celaena is dead in Dorian's eyes. Celaena has not accepted the fact that she can't be Celaena anymore.
Yep.
But we are starting to kind of see the signs that she can't hold on to all the threads, and she's not going to be able to return to what she once was before Endovier.
And you just have to keep asking yourself, like, how much is this nostalgia going to help or hurt her while she's in this city? Is it going to pull her more into the past? Is it going to make her want to not push forward and not be her true identity, not be Aelin and not try to find the rebels? Like, there's a lot of things that's keeping her in the past that's not letting her move forward. Maybe Nehemia should have focused on that than killing herself. I'm just saying. Celaena being back in her city and thinking about her origins, we can see how much she's struggling with her true identity. Quote, part of her wondered whether whatever truth she'd uncover about this rebel movement and the king's plan would destroy her too. Her hopes, her dreams would destroy this potential of people are trying to rebel. Because there's that moment where I think in book 1 where someone mentions rebellion and she's like, oh, rebellion against the king. Like, she does want that. She will never admit it and she doesn't want to be a part of it. But a part of her would love rebels to come around and knock the king away.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Celaena then is studying in Cale's bedroom. It's very intimate. It's like, just like I'm laying around on the couch while you're doing anything. And I love like the way that it's described because she's sitting on the couch and then her legs are over the arms of the couch. And then she's leaning on it. Like, she's totally made herself at home here.
Yep.
And I think that's because her space was a space between her and Dorian. It was a place that he would come and visit and have talks and long conversations with her. And there needs to be a separation of that. She needs to be in Cale's space to have that time with him. And a little bit more about his room I want to get into. Quote, his 4-poster bed was decorated with a rather old and faded crimson duvet. Remember what we were saying in book 1, how red is often associated with the king. And here we are getting in this book how red is faded.
Mm-hmm.
And you can compare that to Chaol's growing distrust of the king.
I think excellent point.
Yeah, I feel like I made all my good points this episode. Expect mediocrity from here on out.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
you're doing fabulous for a first episode.
Thank you.
And I will lower my expectations for the future.
As should everyone. Thank you.
I love this idea that all of Celaena and Dorian's intimate moments were in her room. Therefore, for her to have the same level of intimacy with Chaol, she needs to be in Chaol's room. We also have to remember Chaol goes to her room often, but that is where he is captain of the guard and she is assassin. That's where they talk about training. That's where they talk about the competition. That's where they debrief after meetings. So I love that they're in this smaller enclosed space. You can't go from one room to another. And it's his.
Yeah.
Because Celaena is choosing to be there. And it's just, I'm not saying she's desperate. They both really want this.
She craves them.
But she craves it.
Yeah.
So as Celaena is studying, she brings up quite casually Rorik Farren, and she asks Chaol what he knows, and Chaol reveals that Rorik Farren, who is a crime lord, is dead, was killed by Wesley, Arobin Hamel's bodyguard, who is now also dead because Arobin probably killed him as well. Like earlier in the chapter, Celaena is being reminded of her past. This is the moment she chooses to tell Chaol about Sam Cortland, something she only told Dorian in the previous book. It's a clear signal to us as readers that Celaena desires vulnerability and desires to share that vulnerability with Chaol, because it was only Dorian she shared it with before when she thought she was into Dorian.
The way that she told Dorian, if we remember correctly, it was kind of, I don't want to say a sparring match, but it wasn't a fun conversation. Like they were kind of going back and forth. And it was just something that she kind of snapped at him and finally told him about Sam. Versus right now, it's an exchange of hurts. Chaol is telling her how he hurt, and he even says it's nothing compared to what you went through. So, you know, not only is he exchanging emotional intimacy, but he's recognizing how much more she had suffered than him. And this isn't a revelation. This is an exchanging of emotional intimacy.
Such a great point, because Dorian walked into Celaena's bedroom unwelcome and unbidden.
Constantly.
When he learned about Sam, whereas Celaena is in Chaol's space, wants to be here, voluntarily tells him this.
Yes.
So it is a very distinct difference.
Yep. Chaol then, like we were saying, tells Celaena about the woman that he thought he loved, who betrayed him, and Celaena tells Chaol that his past love was a, quote, dumb girl. Celaena also referred to the ladies of the court as girls, the ones who were standing around watching Chaol, be all sweaty, and she does call them girls, and there's a certain level of belittling when you reference women as girls. And before people are just like, what are we doing here? It's true. I think that as society, we call women girls very often. Hey, girls, how are the girls doing, or and everything. And it's infantilizing because we do not reference men as boys. If we do, it's often as an insult. Oh my God, these boys. Yeah. They're such boys. And with women, I mean, you'll catch it even within yourself. It wasn't until I had a friend point out that she actively tries to call women after like a certain age. And, oh, there was this woman near me. Oh, I saw this woman the other day. And it's the same thing we would do with men. So I think that Celaena is doing the thing that a lot of people do by kind of putting the women down as girls. And it's poignant that Chaol tells her this, quote, "If I had any lady friends, I'd certainly extend the offer," talking about walking her to her room. "I'm not sure if you qualify as a lady though." And I'm not entirely sure with this still. I sat there, I looked at it, and I wasn't like, I know I don't really care for that because it's like, you're no lady type of joke, but she also is dismissing girls. So maybe it's like a joint dismissal of the feminine between girls and ladies, where they both get to dismiss the same thing and they get to understand that she's separate and different from both. Who knows? But I could not say it and have the feminist lens to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Lady is used, it could imply so many different things. It could just be feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be women of court, because not sure you qualify as a lady implies to me, well, you're not a proper woman of court. You're just an assassin, right?
Yep.
Ultimately, he's teasing her. They tease each other. They enjoy doing that. But I totally see your point of him potentially putting her down the way she puts other women down.
And I want people to know, this is me analyzing because it's in front of me, not because I'm thinking I made a good point. This is one of those things where sometimes it's in front of you, you highlight it and you see it, and you're not entirely sure where you stand with it, but like, you know, you recognize it, you see it, and I guess I could interpret it this way. I feel like I made a lot of other good points that I stand by. This isn't one of those.
And with that, let's go into breadcrumbs and broomsticks. So for those of you who are new, breadcrumbs are the things we see throughout the chapters that we think foreshadow or lend itself to clues about something else.
Broomsticks is what we ask our listeners about, so we'll get into that. But let's start with some breadcrumbs. In chapter 2, while in the presence of the king, quote, the king waved a hand at her. Oh, also, this is going to all the spoilers happen here, in case you guys forgot.
Spoilers happen here.
Yeah. So let me restart that. While in the presence of the king waves, quote, the king waved a hand at her, the obsidian ring on his finger gleaming in the afternoon. We know that the ring affects those who are wearing it. So why do we as readers think that it is not affecting him and that he is not somehow controlled as well?
Well, because I think this is the first time we've seen a ring on his finger.
Yeah, but we don't come to the realization that he's actually controlled for a while.
Yep, it's true. In chapter 3, Cain, quote, whispered her... Oh, I'm going to take that away since we already talked about it. In chapter 3, Celaena and Nehemia are talking about Archer Finn as a rebel. Nehemia says, quote, surely no one would be that bold. The rebels hide out in the mountains and forests and places where the local people can conceal and support them. Not here. Rifthold would be a death trap. It's ironic since Nehemia came to Rifthold specifically for that reason, to work with rebels, one of whom is Archer Finn.
In chapter 4, Cale offers to help Celaena with Archer Finn. Celaena thinks if he did get involved, then it would complicate things. Actually, it would completely blow your cover. How do they not think that people will recognize the captain of the guard? Like, at all.
Again, they're young.
Yeah, I know.
In chapter 5, when Celaena goes to the library and spots a hooded figure outside the library doors, quote, some ancient primal part of her reacts. This ancient primal aspect of Celaena will continue to make its appearance known throughout the novel, and I think it hints at her true heritage.
Let's get into some broomsticks. I see you put some screenshots, but did you open the DMs? Because there was a couple people who DM'd. People love sending longer messages.
I did not open the DMs.
Okay, let's go through these and then I'll open some DMs.
So for our first question that we posed to our listeners on our Instagram, so if you want to participate in the future, check out our Instagram. We asked our listeners, what do you think of the start of Crown of Midnight? Do we learn the truth about Celaena's assassinations too early? I will say most everyone was like, nope, loved it. I thought it was great. We need, and rightly so. A lot of our listeners were like, no, it's a YA. You need to be upfront about this kind of stuff. We need to like the heroine.
But there were a fair amount who thought, no, I never thought she was actually doing them. I was never convinced. Like, there were some people, no, I quote, someone saying, no, I think it's too early, sets up the anticipation to finding out when it happened. Like, there are a fair amount of people who thought that it did happen too soon and that it does ruin someone. I think other people are really doubling down on the loving it. I will read someone's message.
Can I read one particular no, which I thought was a good point? They said, I think it's just fun to be privy to info that no one else is privy to. It's the only time in the series.
Yep.
Which is so fair.
True. It's so true. That's very true. A listener says, they sent a DM, I think it's important to consider the audience. This is a novel written for young adults. So with that in mind, I think it was important for SJM to convey upfront that Celaena was not out murdering innocents. It also sets the stage for how crafty she can be in finding workarounds. In this case, it's fooling the king. And of course, later in Queen of Shadow, we see her up the ante and working around Arobyn's will to provide herself with a fortune, with a fortune. Basically, by being upfront in Crown of Midnight, we learn quickly that Celaena has strong morals and is clever. I think the morals thing is important to get.
I think it's the morals that's the most important.
Yeah.
The second question we asked, are the strain dynamics between Celaena, Chaol, Dorian, Nehemia believable or awkward?
A lot of people say awkward.
So when I looked, and granted it was a little bit earlier today, I felt like it was like pretty divided.
Yeah.
Some people were like, oh, it's believable because
they're teenagers.
Right.
They're like high school.
Right. Exactly. I've been on the outside of this kind of thing and it is awkward to watch, but it's believable.
Yeah.
Someone did say Nehemia. Someone went on a Nehemia rant.
I know. I saw that. I was like, that's not what we're talking about. We'll ask about Nehemia in future. We're going to do this more often, guys, where we're asking listeners this before we record.
Someone said, I think there is some dysfunction with the story due to the earlier versions. That's interesting.
Agreed. I agree, because this is so pulling towards Chaol is OTP. Yeah, one true pairing. Dorian at one point was OTP. All right, we have another DM.
Go ahead.
I actually need more space typing this one. I think the dynamics are awkward, but also believable. I think we need to feel the dynamics aren't quite right because none of these relationships are, quote, real, or at least not the kinds of relationship that have those characters are meant to have / end up having with each other. The only real relationship that is built towards the end is trust with Chaol to rebuild a friendship later, and the friendship / fellow ruler relationship built with Dorian. I don't know how I feel about that. That being that there is larger groundwork for the later 7 books happening in this book. I think partially, yes. This listener was saying like it set up groundwork for them to becoming friends later. I agree. Yeah. I think it's groundwork for them to become lovers again. Like love is such a cringy thing, but them being in relationship again. Mm-hmm. I think that's the groundwork. I'm not entirely convinced that when she wrote this book, she knew where this was going to go.
Yeah, I do agree with that. You know, I'm kind of divided on this, and we'll get to this in the question we're about to ask ourselves. I just want to read one more quote, and then I think we move on to the question, because I think reaction...
I have one more. You say it, and then I have one more I just caught.
Sure. Someone says, I've always felt that the relationships are a little awkward, pushing the love triangle a little hard.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a fair amount of people who said, like, it feels off. When I reread it later in time, I was like, no. Yeah, a number of people were just like, this feels almost forced, like we're rehashing the same thing all over again. Mm-hmm. Someone did say, as someone who was on the outside of a similar situation with their friend group, it's believable, to which I say, hey, send me a DM about that. I want to know.
Tell me more.
Give me the tea. I want to know more about that. But yeah, it's pretty divided, and it was brave, I think, of SJM she can't just leave it, right? Mm-hmm. Because it like you can't just abandon this thing that you started. Like, it's not like it's suddenly resolved in those 2 months that we are off camera.
Yeah.
But I do think it does a fair amount of job of letting go the love triangle pretty early.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to ask ourselves the question we asked at the beginning.
Okay. Ask me.
And then I have thoughts, but I will let you respond first. So the question we asked ourselves at the start of the episode is, do we believe the opening of Crown of Midnight is adequately set up by the preceding events in Throne of Glass, as well as the status of everyone and every relationship?
Yes. Okay, now I want to hear your thoughts.
I remember the first time I read the series, I was Team Dorian when I read Throne of Glass, because how can I not be?
Yeah.
He's the hot prince. I was shocked at the way the relationship with Chaol developed and how much Chaol was at the forefront at the end of Throne of Glass. But mind you, it was to me, the pendulum swung really, really far for Dorian and then kind of came back to neutral, where we see both Dorian and Chaol.
Yep.
I feel like at the start of Crown of Midnight, we are already on the opposite end of the pendulum.
Yeah.
All the way up to Chaol.
Higher than ever before. Like, Dorian never even reached this point.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can see both sides in that it might feel like a leap for the relationship between Celaena and Chaol, especially if you weren't paying attention to the Celaena and Chaol relationship in book 1, which was me the first time I read it. Having analyzed book 1, I'm now like, oh yeah, it was there the whole time. All it took was like Chaol killing Cain and Celaena going off and not being trapped in the palace anymore for Chaol's feelings to really present themselves.
Yeah. This book, I mean, Crown of Midnight and Throne of Glass are truly one book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, and I don't say that as in like I know any inside information like it was one book or something. I feel like I have to clump them together as one book in my mind because it sets it up so much for what's happening. And we start with Throne of Glass mid-action. She does a great job. That's what you're always supposed to do, right? Like things have already been moving. Celaena's been a slave for a year. There's a whole past story we don't know about. You know, it's mid-action. What's hard about Throne of Glass, about Crown of Midnight, is that we're also mid-action, but I think people have perceived thoughts on how Throne of Glass ends. So the first time you're reading it, like I was like you, Amy, where I was like, Dorian, what happened to Dorian? And then you read this and you're just like, but Dorian, and you're kind of like missing some things there. The dynamics are all strained the way they need to be, and the dynamics are all intimate the way they need to be. Celaena's relationship with Dorian is strained. Her relationship with Nehemia is strained. Dorian's relationship with Chaol is absent. That's probably my only note, but it would make sense that it's absent, right? Like, neither of them really want to face one another.
I mean, yes, and they didn't really actually spend a lot of time together in book 1.
Yeah, I'm not convinced they're friends.
Yeah, I really don't think they're friends.
We know they are. That is his best friend. They say they are. They say all these things. I don't think SJM has done a good job to this point showing us that friendship.
Yeah.
Rather than telling us, because that has been a tell not show.
Yeah. Now, I think we, from what I remember, see it more in Heir of Fire. But to me right now, they come across as two boys who were best friends at the age of 10.
Yeah.
And they've made no other friends since. So they are each other's default best friend, but they actually don't spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
And Chaol had to grow up and become captain of the guard, and Dorian got to be the prince that fucked around. Dorian only has become more serious since being dumped by Celaena.
Yep.
We talked about before last season that I think Dorian truly cares about Celaena. Maybe, you can even say loved her, but I don't think his true emotions came for her until really the breakup. And I don't think he knew how to care about her while in the midst of caring, because he still doesn't know how to get his head out of his own ass. And I think by the end of this book, we're going to really see a huge change in Dorian with that. And I'm excited to see his development happen. And that's because for the first time in his life, I think it actually has to do with him. Versus, trying to make things about himself. But it's like, oh, no, this thing is actually happening to me and I don't like this.
I really don't want to be the center of attention.
Yeah, like, wait a minute. I don't like this part. And now his life is in danger with his own dad because he doesn't know what his dad would do. So there's a lot of growing that happens with Dorian. But I'm personally think that that it all is set up nicely. It just so happens that the setup happens very quickly. Like, we start mid-action. And unless you are completely aligned with her, you are not going to be happy with that mid-action.
Yeah. And the benefit of reading it after the entire series has already been published is that you go from one book to another really quickly. So it doesn't feel as bad it doesn't feel like a jump.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if you could have that feeling if you're not in the reread.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone could go into it as peacefully. Maybe someone has. I'm sure there is some glorious person out there that has had that moment of clarity of like, oh yes, this makes total sense. But it's hard when you're just reading it for the first time and you have in your head who you think she should be with.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so that was the first episode, guys.
Yay.
And we did it in 2 hours.
Yay. And there was a little break at one point.
I mean, after editing, it's going to be 2 hours.
2
so
hours,
this will be separated into 2 episodes.
Yay.
On that note, let's do some sign-offs.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. Tune in next week when we explore chapter 6 through 11 of Crown of Midnight.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would also love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle BookTalk for Book Talk. Bye!